You're listening to Parasearch UK Radio. News, views and reviews from the world of the paranormal from across the UK and beyond. Find us on Facebook, Twitter and the World Wide Web. Parasearch UK Radio.
The views and opinions expressed by presenters and guests are their own and do not necessarily reflect the official policy or position of Parasearch UK Radio or its affiliates and sponsors. Listener discretion is advised.
With paranormal news, views and reviews from across the USA, you're listening to Paranormal Hindsight with Jay and Teresa here on Parasearch UK Radio.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome back to Paranormal Hindsight. I'm your host, or actually, I'm your little lackey co-host.
Hey, Lackey.
We're back again. This is Jay.
And Teresa.
And we are here again for another fun week of this, and we've missed you guys, and we've brought a friend along. And if you don't mind, we've brought our wonderful friend, psychic medium Glenn White. Glenn, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. It's always a pleasure and an adventure all in one.
What are you trying to say?
It's a fun time.
That I should be on my better behavior tonight because we're actually in the UK and not here back stateside where I could be a lunatic?
Buckle up. Enjoy the ride.
Oh, so as I've already introduced, you are a psychic medium. Would you like to go into a little bit more details about this and kind of introduce yourself to the audience?
I say it every time I'm with you, Jay. How many times have you heard it? I'm a jack of all trades and master of none is the best way I explain all of it. You know, the psychic medium thing, I do that very much so. That takes up a big part of what I do. But I'm an author that writes books on those topics, paranormal topics, things like that. 3 books out, 1 due this October. So that would be 4th. And I've done some TV and movie stuff, work in a movie and actual TV shows other than paranormal, but also paranormal TV shows. Former pro wrestler, blah, 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 all kinds of fun stuff. Never a dull moment.
Never a dull moment. It's like when you and Jay get together. Oh, crap. It's just, I was looking the other day through pictures, found the picture of when you know what I'm going to say.
I know what you're talking about. The hotel room.
Yes.
The Hotel No-Tell Holiday Inn?
Yep.
Actually, I think that was a Quality Inn before we got there.
It was quality it's not quality now.
I know. It went all the way up the food chain. It got better.
Wow.
Yeah, some people say that.
We improved his standards and reputation.
Is that your story and you're sticking to it?
Damn right.
Yeah, who's going to contest it?
You enjoyed yourself that night, Teresa, so I don't want to hear it.
That's true. I can't say that I didn't.
No, it is. It's always good when you get a chance to get together with people. And we actually only met you, about a year and a half ago now. 2 years ago, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was about a year. Well, it would be 2 years in, May, July, something like that.
Yeah.
Will be 2 years.
And it was, when we first got to meet you, you and I, kind of like me and Rick did, excuse me, our personalities just absolutely clicked. And shenanigans ensued, followed by malarkey.
Of course.
With an extra helping of nonsense.
Well, one thing I try to always say is, the secret behind life is the fact that if you're not enjoying it, you're not doing it. Life is a joke.
It has been for me. I'm done, though. This last joke's enough for me for a while.
Yeah, okay.
Now, back to the psychic mediumship. Did you go into a little bit more details on do you use tarot? Do you use objects? Do you...
Well, what it is that I am considered more of a physical medium when I do my mediumship, which means that it affects me physically and it affects the environment. Yeah, it infects things too, I guess, in a way. Such as when I do things with physical mediumship, like seance, table tipping, things of that nature, because it totally changes the environment that you're in as well, because I'm working directly hand in hand, trying to create, the best way I explain physical mediumship is a physical change within the environment. Therefore, we are looking for something everybody can see with their eyes, hear with their ears. We want physical evidence of mediumship and of, spirits that are around us.
Now, that thing right there in its own right is, I got to admit to everybody that over in the UK, they still have a lot of that participation going on from my discussions with people over there. But here in the States, that's something that's almost not done, or that I know of. You're probably one of the few people I know that absolutely do the physical style mediumship.
Well, it's extremely limited, and the reason that it's so limited is because of the fact of it's so criticized. You have so many people out there. It's like a good magician, for instance. You have the good magicians that can actually do the magic tricks, and then you have the ones that are more about debunking it, figuring it out, and pinpointing every little thing. Well, with mediumship, the problem is so many people are either one side or the other. So you're either completely against this type of stuff or you're completely for it. Me personally, and you guys know this, I'm as skeptical as I am a believer. Which means if something moves across the room, I want to know how. I want to know why. Can we find a natural explanation? If we can't, then I'm wide open to opening it up and saying, you know what? It was spirit. Right. Or it was paranormal. That's why my seance, when I do seance and things of that nature, I don't turn the lights off. We're not doing it in the dark to try to fool or trick anybody. Because damn it, if something moves, I want to see it as bad as everybody else does.
Right. That's something that I think if something is going to move, flash the light, show itself, whatever, everybody wants to see it. Not just one person or the other.
Well, exactly. Well, like what I was getting at, a lot of the seances way back when, in the United States even, and from what I'm told, a lot of them over in the UK, other countries where they do occasionally do this stuff, or regularly do it like they do in the UK, it's done in the dark still. They want all the lights off. It's completely done in the dark. We don't want, you have to listen and hear if the tambourine jingles or if the bell rings. Well, if the bell's ringing, to me, logically, let's take a second and look at that. If the bell is ringing, if the tambourine is shaking, that means it's physically moving, right?
Right.
Should be.
Well, then I want to see it.
But I would too, because that gives more of a confirmation to what you're encountering. Because there could be a recorder there playing the sound of it, and that some bitch not move at all, and I can't tell that in the dark. So I like where you go with this, where leaving the lights on, because not only do I hear that sound, but I can see the confirmation of it movement.
Right. And another one of my big things, I hold everyone who attends, I hold them all responsible. Not necessarily as much responsible for themselves as much as they are the people that's sitting next to them on either side of them. I do this every time I do one of these events, every time I do a seance. Okay, the people who sit on either side of me, you're responsible for me and the person on the other side of you. If the table starts shaking, you need to look and make sure my legs aren't moving. You need to make sure that the person next to you's legs aren't moving. You need to make sure I keep both hands on the table at all times. That way they're all visible. Nobody's sliding anything under the table or anything like that. It's all up front and center. And if you're shaking your leg, I'm going to call it, and the person on the other side of you is going to call it.
Right.
And we're going to say, okay, the table started shaking when he started shaking his leg, and that's what it is. Now stop shaking your leg and the table still shakes. Now we've got something.
Right. And some people do things not to intentionally throw things off.
Nervous tics.
But they might be nervous.
Right, exactly. And that's the thing. And I tell everybody, it's the same thing. Okay, to me, it's the same thing with like the stomach gurgling.
Demon.
Everybody's stomach does it. Everybody's stomach does it.
I threw the word demon in there just for Andy Mercer.
Yeah, well.
I'm sure Andy appreciates it, Jay.
It's the demon of the McDonald's from last night.
Right?
Hey, I'd rather have the demon of the McDonald's than the demon of the White Castles. And for those that don't know, White Castle is a little slider. Look them up online. You'll understand.
I've been to a White Castle once or twice.
Oh, man. Mm.
Yeah, or Jack in a Box.
Never had that. But yeah, it's just with those things, though, you get people where they don't realize it, too, sometimes.
Right, but that's why everybody in my sessions, everybody is accountable for each other. And if it happens, it happens. Just claim it, call it, and we move on.
Oh,
it's
absolutely.
not an issue.
Absolutely.
My brother's those, and he's a good investigator, don't get me wrong. But he could take a teaspoon of water, and his guts will growl for the next 3 hours. And
That's the truth.
I hate doing EVP sessions with him for that reason. And that's one of the reasons why he always ends up alone, because that way he knows what's going on with his own. You know what I mean? But for
Definitely,
the rest of us, it's like, it's like, did you hear that? That was my stomach. 3 seconds later, that was my stomach. That was my stomach. I'm like, dude, I'm going to cut your stomach out.
Right, but see, and that's the thing. That's why I believe, from what I've studied and learned, that's why things like seance in the United States have been basically a huge taboo anymore. Because you had those that would intentionally try to fake people. They called it fakery or jugglery. Jugglery was the term that they would use when somebody would make all the lights have to be off, and then they'd use different tricks. Like, okay, you could tie my arms to the armrests of the chair, but in secretive, the armrests lift right up so the medium can still move things. And at that point, he's not even a medium. He's a showman. And he can move things in the dark and put his arm back, and the lights come on, and I'm still tied to this chair. But because of things like that, it has become so taboo for it to legitimately happen. And you have so many that I feel are straight up afraid of the criticism of it. Because instantly, I faced so much criticism about my seances, and still to this day I face it constantly, even with all the lights on, all the upfront, straightforward, everybody in there is accountable for each other. There's still tons of criticism behind it, not only from the it's of the devil side of things,
Right.
but also from the, okay, now I watched that bell start ringing, but how the hell did he pull it off?
Well, that's to me,
that's
that's more people being skeptical of their own minds than what they are of you. They're blaming you for not wanting to admit that they have absolutely no idea or no control of what just happened. That freaks a lot of people out.
Well, exactly, but that's exactly also why I always tell people, look, if you've got a question about the bell, touch the bell, pick the bell up, ring the bell yourself.
Now, see, me being the smart aleck that I am, I'm going to be, if you really got a question about the bell, ask it. But that's me.
If it answers back, we're all in trouble.
Oh, heck yeah. But then, you definitely got something on a whole different level now.
Right. Yeah, well, that's true.
I mean, it's called psychotic. I mean,
but for me, that's what it is, though, is I'm very upfront and open about watch everything. I love the fact of some of my seances, you have the small group around the table, and then we actually have a group that sits around that, which I love, because that means as everybody that's at the table is focused on me and the table and each other, you have an outer ring of people that are focused on everybody else in the room.
But that means that everybody's underneath constant scrutiny, which means you get more confirmation of validity to what's going on and what may have happened because you got so many eyes on the situation.
Exactly. Well, that's the whole point of why I like to do things that way. To show, it's not me. I'm just, the word I like to use is I'm just the conduit of it. I am the middleman. We all want an experience. The spirits here want to communicate. I'm the middleman.
But now see, that's another thing when you get into the whole other side of the psychic. Do you do that style of psychic or mediumship also, to where you don't use the physical attributes?
Oh yeah, I mean that's the thing. The way I initially started was just knowing things. And that's what they call the mental mediumship side of things, because you just know it, or you hear. Some people hear voices or whatever. I don't hear voices so much.
You just kind of know it?
I do. To me, the way I best explain this is, to me, if I ask you 1 + 1, the answer is 2. You don't have to think about it. You don't have to sit there and add it together in your head. It's just knowledge. It's there. It's ingrained in your brain that 1 + 1 is 2.
Right.
To me, it's ingrained. It's like just knowledge. It's an old memory that just sparked up. The cupboards are a light brown with a silver handle. How do I know that? It beats the heck out of me.
But is it right?
Well, that's the thing, is when that information comes in like that, that's the message I'm giving, and those are different validations to verify I'm getting it from somewhere else. You know what I mean? To where if I'm sitting with, say, you, and I'm doing a reading for you, and I start to say, okay, well, you're having problems in your house, and then I start to describe the room in your house that you're having problems, that's a validation for you.
Yeah.
But how do I know what that room looks like? It's almost like I've been there a million times. I'm seeing through your eyes. I know what your house looks like. Or I'm seeing through spirit's eyes, so to speak, and I know what the house looks like.
Okay.
Teresa's in deep thought here.
I am. I'm very much so paying attention.
Well, yeah, I know. Well, of course you are. We like Glenn.
Well, yeah.
It's like you're talking to me.
Well, and what's really good about Glenn that I appreciate you so much for is that if I have a question about something, I can pick up the phone and ask you.
Oh, yeah, without a doubt.
Yeah,
and if I don't know, I try to lead you to the right direction, because I'm not going to tell you something, That's one thing that bugs me. I'm going to not be on a soapbox on this. It's one thing that bugs me, though, is when you call somebody for direction or for answers or for help, and they just know everything. They can't cite a thing. They can't cite a thing. They can't say, well, I know this is this because of this. Oh, well, this is just this.
How do you know? I don't know. I just know.
Right. If for some reason you're asking me something to do with metaphysical or something of that nature, well, I'll either tell you my experience with it or say, you know what, I'm not sure on that, but I know who is. And send you in a good direction that would be best for you to learn from that,
Right. I know I've hounded you several times.
Oh.
And we've had some very long phone calls.
Where was I?
But
sitting next to me.
Okay.
Being Jay and zoned out.
Right?
Yeah, I had to pick on you guys a little bit. I was just kind of like, time for me to quip in here real quick. I'm going back out now.
But yeah, no, to me, it's one of those things of you try to learn as much as you can, but you never, ever will you know everything. So the best you can do is try to put yourself in the position to where you know people who would know the things you don't, or could also lead you into the right direction to help you in those situations.
Mm-hmm.
But we all, even for somebody that's been doing it, I mean, and this is, I can't say the question because the question I hate the question, and I'm not even having abilities, but when people ask people with abilities to say, well, when did you first start getting your abilities? Or when did you start? As far as I understand, from what I've listened to and studied, you guys are born with these abilities, and to me it's more like, when did you first start accepting them and acknowledging them?
And I would completely agree with that, because for me personally, it was a situation of, I always had things going on around me. I always thought, well, the house I grew up in, you guys know the story, the house that I grew up in was extremely, extremely actively haunted. And by active, I mean there were things happening on a daily, if not sometimes hourly basis that could not be explained. And that's just the way it was. That was life for me. And it was a matter of, after I moved out of there, I still had activity around me. Well, probably because as I was younger, I was focused so much on the activity in that house, which never gave me that, almost like that self-doubt, if you will, of, oh, well, it's all in your imagination, it's all in your mind. Instead, it was always one of those situations to where, okay, well, things just happen that we can't explain. Even as a kid, that's the way I was basically taught that. So I never put that filter in of, oh, well, this is just insane and unbelievable and not possible, like most kids get.
Yeah, my dad and mom was so dismissive of anything in the paranormal completely. So I didn't really get a knowledge base about it, or even an interest in it.
Your mom still is now.
Oh, yeah. She's very skeptic and dismissive. And until I met Teresa, and then once I got around her and started listening to her talk about it and her family talk about it, it's like, oh, okay. Then we went investigating, and it's just, I don't know. Then I met you, and my world's never been the same again. Oh, sorry. But it's just interesting to me when it's not interesting. It's more like it's insulting in my viewpoint, which is just strictly mine, and I don't have abilities. When people ask people with your guys' abilities or talents, whatever you want to call it, gifts, well, when did you first get your gift? It's like, well, and I've heard people say, well, when I was 26 or something like that, this happened. And I'm like, no, you didn't just develop it like that. You had it. You just finally accepted it and acknowledged it. Or am I looking at this in the wrong light?
Well, yes and no.
Oh,
Some
God.
people just develop it.
Let me, well, I say yes and no for a very valid reason, and you'll like some of this and some of this you won't. And I really don't care, Jay. So buckle up on this one, buddy. I've said it a million times, and I'll say it a million more. I would have to study for years to be able to play a good song on the piano. Others can sit down and play by ear the first time their fingers ever touch the keys. That is the equivalent of abilities or the gift or whatever you want to call it. It's all there for us. It's a matter of, do we tap into it, do we use it, or not? Some of us choose not to. Some of us simply aren't strong with it, so it's barely there. I know many people who won't even touch a piano because, well, I can't play a lick, so why should I even touch it? Mm-hmm. And that's the life that they live, Jay. So...
Oh, no, I'll go there and I'll bang on them keys like crazy. I ain't scared of it.
Yeah, well, I don't see you banging on the keys for the metaphysical gifts or abilities.
Yeah,
Thank you.
do. I do in a different light, though.
Right, and I know, and we've talked about that, but you see what I'm saying with this?
This isn't about me, damn it.
Well, no, but what I'm saying about this is it's all a matter of those abilities are there in us all from day one. It's a matter of how strong they are, how much we use them, how much we work with them, and all of that. That's what makes the difference.
But that's now, what I'm saying. You're saying basically what I'm saying is that you've always had them. But I hate when people's like, when did you first get your gifts? I was born with them. When did I first start accepting them? When did I first start acknowledging them? When did I first start trying to work with them? That's a more logical question than when did you give them. It's like somebody come over to your house one day on your 13th birthday and wrapped up a little box and had air in it and said, no, it wasn't air. It's abilities. Really?
Well, now, and this is where I'm with you on so many levels on that. I will say though.
But I can hear in his voice there's a butt coming.
There is. Well,
A big one.
and you're going to understand this spot.
Wow.
Talk to me.
What it is, okay, so let's say, for instance, and God forbid this ever happen, or goddess, or whoever you want to believe in, that this ever happened. But, Jay, you completely, like, there's so many people that completely deny their gifts or say, I don't have the abilities. And then they end up in some type of a major accident or a near-death situation or a major trauma of some sort. And they come back from that with a whole different light, with a whole different mindset, with a whole different everything. And all of a sudden, it's almost to them like I never had anything, but that accident flipped a switch. And now I have these abilities. So in those certain cases where it's something like that, were they always there? Obviously, yes. Did they realize it or know it? No, clearly they didn't. Whatever trauma it was is what really brought it out in them. So then they'd be the ones to say, well, when did I get my gifts? Well, I got them when I was in such and such accident and had a near-death experience. Okay, well, as much as I would still argue like you, Jay, of they've always been there, they just haven't come out strong until then, I could see saying something of that nature.
Yeah, but once again, that's like I'm saying, it wasn't that traumatic event, but their narrow-mindedness of it, or their denial of it all those years,
right,
was now flipped in reverse because that one incident in their mind. But it truly, if they would stop and look at their lives, like Teresa, that's kind of what got me on the topic, because when she first started really working more and more with hers, she's like, since we really got involved with the paranormal, I was like, nuh-uh. Go back and look at the entire time that we've been together. Look at before that. You saw words in flames on a wall when you was a child, and the wall didn't burn. You and a friend,
right.
You had somebody with you that witnessed it. So you've always had this. You've just denied it. And if those people who's had an accident or whatever like that, in my opinion, who say, well, I didn't get my abilities until this tragic thing happened. Bullshit. What you did is you had that tragic thing happen that made you realize that how fragile life is and how special it is, and you actually slowed down enough to accept the gift that is within your side yourself. But they always want to attribute it to, I got my gift in. No, you always had it. You just finally acknowledged it, in my opinion.
And that's pretty much what I said. It's just a matter of the terminology of it is what it boils down to. And that's where, okay, well, I can tolerate it a lot more if people say, well, I got my gifts at the age of 33 because of this tragic event. All right, I can tolerate that a little more because clearly you weren't paying attention to the world around you until 33 and that accident or that event.
Mm-hmm.
I agree. We're saying the same thing.
Right.
Just, I'm saying that here's my favorite analogy. I'm describing the tails of the quarter. You're describing the head, but we're still talking about a quarter.
Exactly. Yeah.
or more simplistic terms, 5 plus 4 is 9. So is 6 plus 3. We're getting the same results.
Right. It's all the terminology that you put it in.
Now you're throwing out them big words.
I know I am. Hey, at least we're not talking about turtles.
Just remember that these British folk are used to me hearing like a dumb hillbilly now, so don't make me start intelligent now.
Don't worry, folks. He's still a dumb hillbilly.
There you go. Point made.
And I'm a city slicker from New York.
Yes, you are, man. You come down here the first time, I'm like, what in the world? No, I'm just kidding.
The funny part is, though, is where I'm at from New York City is 8 hours away. I'm closer to you than I am New York City.
I'd rather be closer to me than New York City, too.
Well, I'm happy I'm closer to you guys than I am New York City, but it's a nice place to visit.
I wouldn't even go there.
I did visit. It was a nice place to visit.
You can take Teresa.
I don't want to go.
Damn.
There's too many people.
Damn.
There's too many people.
Now, okay, I'm not the host, but I'm going to swing this back for us all.
Oh, shit. Here we go. I love it when you do this to me.
One place that I did visit that I absolutely loved, that I felt brought even more out in me, was when I actually went down to Louisiana.
Oh.
Well, here's the thing. The sad part is that certain little town in Louisiana called New Orleans, that little city down there. You know, there's psychics and tarot readers and palm readers in Jackson Square all day, all night. You can't turn around without running into one of them and trying to get your money to do a reading of some sort. However, spiritually wise, on the spiritual side, that place has so much history, and there's just so much there and about it that it's just unbelievable walking down those streets. And, you know, the energy of it all is just, I was blown away.
I can't wait to get down there.
We're going in. You know we're going there, right?
I did see that.
Halloween weekend.
I did see that.
We are so excited.
I don't know what you're doing on Halloween, but I highly suggest finding a post to put your back up against and standing on Bourbon Street and watching the costumes go by.
We'll be back by then because that's what, Monday or Tuesday?
Yeah,
we'll be checking out.
We'll be down there
back
for the
on
weekend.
Sunday.
It's that week. Yeah.
Well, you know, if I didn't have all this other stuff happen to me and I didn't lose some of my vacation time.
If you could control the beast.
It might be a little bit of a different situation for me, but we'll just leave it at that.
Put a leash on that thing.
Right?
I didn't break it. Somebody else did.
Oh, yeah, right.
He had nothing to do with it, right?
Always got a finger point somewhere else.
Absolutely.
It's never me. It's always...
No, it's always me.
You know,
I just try to blame everybody else. Nobody believes me.
I'm being Hayward this second.
It's
There you
hard,
go.
isn't it?
I almost soapboxed again. Because that's a pet peeve of mine.
What's that?
When people legitimately fall victim to everything they've done.
Oh,
because
no.
it's always somebody else who did it. I know that's not your situation, and that's not what... No, but you know what I'm talking about.
Oh, God, yeah.
It happens every day in the paranormal and the metaphysical. It's always somebody else's fault.
But you know what? It's not so much in the paranormal and the metaphysical. It's indicative of people as a whole nowadays.
True.
We were raised up by parents that still raised us the old ways. Well, I mean, I see some of the differences that I've done with my son, and I'm glad some of them I made changes I made. Some of the changes I wish I wouldn't have done. I wished I'd have got him out doing more. I mean, we've desensitized it and babied ourselves so damn much in the last couple of generations that what's going to happen when they're the ones that's supposed to be in charge? We've never given them an actual chance to lead.
Right.
We've always done things for them or told them that they couldn't do this or they need to do it this way, and we never gave them the opportunity to make mistakes, to screw up, to learn.
Well, and the key behind that all is we don't. A lot of the generations lately have turned into a situation where they don't have the ability to think for themselves because they've never had to.
And their coping skills is horrendous.
Yeah,
they don't have coping skills.
So,
right.
But that's not the basis of what the show is supposed to be.
Well, no, I was bringing it back to that. Thank you, Jay. But now that you mention it. But what I said, though, is the whole basis of they can't think for themselves because they've never had to. Now, one thing I do when I do a seance, when I do an event, I challenge every person there to think for themselves and think outside the box. Because if you're going there for tricks and for a show, you're in the wrong spot.
Right.
Go to one of these phony fake deals that go on. Usually in October, you'll have some medium come in, some Swami medium come in with a turban or with a head thing on and do the whole, oh, welcome, please sit down and join hands. And it's a great smoke and mirror show, but that's exactly what it is. If that's what you're looking for, go there. If you're coming and you come to one of the events that I do, or when I work with it, whether it's an event or just working with it, I challenge you to think for yourself and think outside the box. You have to.
And that, but if they actually take the time to quit nitpicking every little thing and focus on what's actually going around them, take into account for people's little ticks and all that stuff, it's a better show than what the Swami can ever possibly do.
Exactly.
Right.
It truly is. My biggest thing, and I want to get your viewpoint on this also. My biggest thing right now is my shift in the paranormal is big time. From what I investigated, how I investigated when you first met me, is completely changing now. I'm getting more into the energy work, but I'm also getting into more simplistic of putting the equipment down and just experiencing, and then figuring out, what did I just experience? Was it truly paranormal? Do I really need all these gadgets and beeping? You know, they're kind of cool, and they can work, but what spiritual thing just happened? Because what we're looking for is a ghost. What's a ghost? It's a spirit. So it is spiritual by nature. So I'm changing that direction. Am I going to get away from the tech side of it altogether? No. I'm actually trying to learn more about the spiritual side and the metaphysical side, so I can combine the two to find that common ground to have that experience more. You know what I mean?
I do, because your number one tool, if you're investigating, no matter what you're doing, the number one tool.
He just called me a tool.
I did. Well, we all are.
Yes.
That's the point. We are our number one indicator, our number one tool for everything we do.
And people don't realize that. If you go into an area or room, whatever, and you feel a little ill or antsy, or like you really don't want to be in there, listen to your gut.
Exactly. How many times, okay, let's pull this out for a second. Put this in everyday life. How many times have you sat there and went, oh, something's just off today?
Oh, yeah.
Something's just off. And then you get that phone call that something just happened somewhere, something happened at work, something happened to a family member, you know. But you had that indicator to begin with that said something's off today. Something's not right.
That's it.
But you didn't listen to it.
You guys talk about having those kind of indicators and those kind of feelings. That absolutely trips me out, because I do not get that. I don't. I do have my little senses, but it's usually more on the different level. It's when I'm out in the woods or something like that. It's more earthbound and natural. That thing like that, to have to think that, oh, there's something wrong, and all of a sudden I get a message through that something did happen. I'm like, that would probably freak me the hell out.
Okay. All right. Let me give you this instance then, Jay, because you and I have had this conversation. We're not naming names. We're not pulling out events. What I'm going to do is this, though. How many times have you went and somebody has said something to you and you went, that's a load of crap. But you weren't 100% sure. Somehow you just knew it was crap. And then sure enough, boom, here's the evidence to prove it. How is that different?
Because you guys get a sense about it. You really do. And
what told you it was crap?
The person. You remember that show?
That person.
No, that's not true.
Yeah.
You remember
Yes,
that?
it
No,
is.
no, it is no. You look at a person and you sense things. Do you remember the show that was on TV there for a little while called Lie to Me? Mm-hmm. Where the guy read people, but he didn't read them like you guys do. He read them by there's little ticks, there's little signs, there's little tells. That's what I do. I can hear it in people's voices, their tone, their pitch, the inflection of what they do. I listen to every one of those details. If it's somebody that I don't know, or I don't trust, or I have some kind of never met and trying to get to know, and whether I've heard things about them or not doesn't matter. I have a bad history. I'm not a very trusting person. I have bad people skills, to be honest with you. So I watch to see their mannerisms, because you can tell somebody, have a nice day, have a nice day. Same words, but means totally different by the inflections of your voice. So while you guys are reading and getting that sense of that feelings, I'm paying attention to the detail of how they move their eyes when they speak. If you look up and to the left, you're doing memory recall. If you look up and to the right, you're looking for a reason to lie in a bullshit. That's all that is. It's little tells that every single person does physically, not metaphysically. And that's what I pay attention to. I pick up on that quick. But I have trust issues. I always have. Because of the people I used to associate and run around with. Anything they can find against you, to use against you, get the upper hand, to have manipulate you, they would. That's just the crowd that I ran around in. I don't run around with them now, but I still have that immediately judging and getting that rapport off somebody by their body movements, their language, their tone and pitch, everything like that. I pay and it drives Teresa crazy.
Okay, but let me explain this to you. Most of the time, if I wake up and I get up and something doesn't feel right, it's not just that little inclination in my stomach. It's also something doesn't feel right in the air. Something doesn't feel right in the atmosphere. Now, what's the difference between what you just explained and me explaining it? I'm paying attention to my surroundings, my atmosphere, the way my body is reacting to certain things. The difference is, well, if I can say it, at one point in time, I will become a show host, and I'll be able to speak coherently without stutter or stammering and sound like a freaking fool.
No, you won't.
Redneck hillbilly.
But
right?
Yours is physical, and you're the physics. You're the physical being. You're taking in that energy. That's the difference. I'm not taking in any energy in, and I'm not taking any feelings in. I am reading their body language and their gestures. I don't feel anything. Their movements tells me. Their tone of voice tells me. You're feeling the energy around the atmosphere and stuff. And you're right. You're an instrument. You're no different than a K2 meter or a millimeter or whatever. You're feeling that energy levels. I'm not doing that. I'm watching how they carry themselves, how they position themselves. Even slight little things that you could tell. And you can. How many women have you ever seen do it? You can tell when they're immediately bored with the conversation, really don't care what's going on. They're just there to make that person that they're with happy, because they'll stand there with one foot facing forward, and they'll cock that other foot to a 90-degree angle from it, and cock that and pick that hip out. They're bored. They're just there because they're there for the show. Look at me. I'm here.
Okay.
That's what I pick up. Mine are physical of their physicality. Nothing physically that I take in or I feel.
Okay, so then you know what, Jay? I'm gonna issue you a challenge.
I love challenges.
I know you do. I challenge you that the next time you go and investigate, to take a moment, no equipment, nothing, set everything down, and just stand there and breathe in the location.
Oh, I do that now.
That's
what I was saying. That's what I'm doing. I put the equipment completely down. I'm trying to use. I know there's wavelengths. I know there's vibrations. I know I've listened to you guys. I've also done research and reading on it. Not just on the physical side. There's physically and scientifically. We all know there's vibrations and air and radio waves and microwaves and all this stuff going through the atmosphere. We know this is all going on. Right. So therefore, everything does resonate. It's plain and simple. It's the truth. Everything resonates no matter what it is.
But with doing that, that's what clues you in.
Yeah.
The energy feels different in this room than it does in any other room I've been today. The atmosphere feels heavier. The air feels heavier. Something like that. Okay, maybe I want to spend more time in this room to investigate. Because it feels different.
I'm working on that, and I'm trying to get in tune with that, but from a different level than what you guys are at. Maybe someday I'll aspire to that level. Maybe not. Maybe mine's more will always stay earthbound. I don't know, and I'm not going to say that it can't happen, but I'm not going to say that it will happen either. But like I said, there's the difference though is you guys have that physical thing that I'm trying to learn how to do, and I'm more learning how to focus upon it. And having conversations. Having conversations like this though helps. It really does because it gives me direction.
And we're back to learning to play the piano. Because I'm playing by ear. Teresa's playing by ear. You're
Trust
reading
me.
sheet music.
The hell I am. The sheet music.
I took guitar lessons for 7 years. I still can't play the guitar and still can't read music.
but you see what I'm saying here with this.
I get what you... I mean, I understand it, but like I said, mine's more even... And that's what I do now. Even when I go into a new environment, I don't feel the energy, and I listen to you when we're with you, and I listen to Teresa about how you guys feel. What do you feel in the air? While you're doing that, I'm noticing every little tick of the ceiling and the walls and this and that. And there's a blind over there, and it's got a broken slat in it. And there's a string hanging over there, and the window's got a slight crack or run. I'm taking in all that so that way when later on when we're there and in the dark, and I hear that sound that direction, I pretty much already know what it is because you know the sound of what the middle blind will make, and you can pinpoint it a lot quicker and easier. So you guys are reading the energy of the atmosphere. I'm always reading the physical environment, physically. So we're doing the same thing, just from a different point. I'm trying to now learn how to do your guys' also, and I'm trying to get other people who are on your side, who do the metaphysical side, to learn how to read the physical attributes of the building also. Because both are just as important. That's what I'm saying. I'm trying to marry the two.
Right. And you know what? And I'll tell you, when I go to a new location, I prefer to go in during daylight so that I can do a walkthrough. And that walkthrough isn't simply so that I could feel out the energy of the location or anything like that or the atmosphere. I'm also doing what you're talking about. Where's this room go to? What's that window go to?
See, you're doing what I'm doing. You're trying to do both aspects of it. Where Teresa, she tunes into what she feels because she knows. Because we always investigate together. And we use that. We use that as our strengths.
And
she can feel that
as you should.
But you know what? A lot of times, if I'm not with Jay, I get really antsy.
Well, because you've grown to rely on him so much to do the other half of it.
I know that
nothing's going to hurt you or bother you if I'm around.
Exactly. I know that no matter what, Jay has my back.
There could be a polar bear walking in that room. You're going to get out of there. I'm going to be dinner.
Now, I would. There are people that I would be comfortable with. I could investigate with Glenn.
Oh yeah.
And I could feel safe and not worry about it. But there are people that, if I don't know you very well, I'm and Jay's not with me, I'm not going to be 100%.
Right, which is why I myself have strived so much to do the initial walkthrough to pick up on all the things like Jay's talking about with the actual physical room on top of the energy side, so that if I'm there alone or I'm there with 50 people, I know what I need to do for me. But that's what that is it's a matter of working with it, learning and picking up, okay, well, the energy feels different in this room. Why does it feel different? How does it feel different? What's different about the atmosphere in this room? Now, if I investigate it and it's active, okay, now, for somebody new, that should be like a trigger of, okay, I know what that room felt like, and this is the activity that came with it. Therefore, if I'm in a different location and I start to feel those same things again, I know where I'm hanging out for a while. That's what it is. I tell people when I do things like walkthroughs for locations, like the reading walkthroughs for locations, or when I do, a lot of the different stuff, because it is a lot of energy and wavelengths and things of that nature, it's a matter of I'm just paying very close attention. That's the best way and I'm sure somebody probably can explain it better, but that's the best way I explain it. Like with I wake up and something doesn't feel right today. It's just because I'm paying close attention to my body or the environment around me. That's what tells me something doesn't feel right.
Exactly.
But unless I stop everything to pay attention to that, then I'm going to ignore that and keep walking through like nothing's going on.
And that's what most people do.
Exactly. It's a matter of taking the time to learn to focus. And like I said, learn to focus on what does this mean when these things happen.
Look at Teresa.
You can't.
She's taking it in right now. She's like, okay, processing. Buffering. No.
Asshole.
Wow. Remember, we are on the UK. What's your language? Arse.
Well, for me, like seance, for instance, it's one of the big parts of the reasons that I like to watch the things happen as they happen. Why I like to do it with lights on. Because I know I'm feeling spirits around, I'm feeling different changes in the atmosphere around us, I have a feeling that something's going to happen. If it's in the dark, I can't see that. So that skeptical side of me wants the validation as well of, I know what I feel going on around us. I know the conversations or communications I'm getting around us. We need physical validation of this.
Folks, he's just
and
trying
I want to
pull
see
your
it
leg.
as much as everybody else.
He's just pulling your legs, folks. He's really scared of the dark.
Jeez.
Well, you know,
I'm sorry,
why I made
man.
you hold my hand.
I just thought it kind of felt good.
Well,
there is that.
But it is, and we're actually, once again, we've agreed more than what we've disagreed. We're just coming at the same from different angles, but it's. I think there's a tremendous change in the paranormal field. I think people are getting more along the lines of understanding the physical and the metaphysical and combine them more, and trying to stop discrediting one another, because it seems like the more they try to discredit one another, sometimes they end up giving each other more credibility.
right, and I completely agree. You know, I spent a couple years investigating with different tools and equipment, you know, with different meters and all that kind of fun stuff. And is it fun? Yeah. And if there's something new that comes out that looks really cool, you're right. I want to try it. I want to check it out. I want to see how it works. However, to me, the equipment only does two things. It validates what I'm already feeling and getting anyway. But if I'm alone, then that doesn't matter so much. Except for personal experience still.
Right.
What makes it the big difference, and this is the big thing on what makes it more substantial, is if you're investigating for a purpose other than for yourself. If you're being called into a home because there's activity, if you're being called into a location because there's activity, and people feel crazy because they think stuff's going on, but they think they're crazy about it, those things will validate that they're not crazy and that there is stuff going on for them. That's what gives the physical evidence in those cases to really help people understand and help them out in that aspect. However, if I'm going to investigate a place myself, I'll take a voice recorder and a flashlight, of course, you know, so that I'm not alone in the dark.
Right.
Well, I'm never alone in the dark, but so I can shine a light on a few things. But that's the thing. To me, you know, a voice recorder is great because then you can try to get the EVPs that go on. But other than that, if I'm investigating it for my own personal reasons, my own purpose, I do not need a MEL meter, a K2 meter, a EMF detector, a REM pod, all this other stuff. And essentially, a lot of places, you don't need something like a REM pod to begin with.
I'm
The
not
REM
big
pod-
on REM pods anyway, so.
Aren't they the ones that supposedly like push some energy in or some electricity into the area around you?
It's a glorified K2 meter.
Okay, well, there's one out there. I know there's the EMF pump.
Yeah, there's another piece of equipment that it supposedly puts out energy and reads the energy. And how can
Right.
you do both?
Right. Yeah. You don't. Yeah, they're fun to watch and they're fun to play with, but they're toys.
Right.
Now, the equipment has a place, but I get it. I've been on a soapbox about it here a lot here lately. Our equipment's not progressing though, and you know
It's
it should
not.
be more digitalized where you can get actual accurate readings and things like that. Where instead of doing that, we like I said the other night on a Monday night show on Paranormal Radio, we go to from a compass to a K2 meter. We go from a K2 meter to a MEL meter, which now has better calibrations to it and also gives you a digital reading so you can see how much the environment is fluctuating. Because, you know, you get a plus, it says right in the instructions, plus or minus 0.2. So that means if it's within a 0.4 reading, that's normal. So, a normal fluctuation. But then when we go from there to a REM pod, where now we go back to, it's a K2 meter put in a round circle with different colored lights, a lot of annoying sound beeper in it, and an antenna. You no longer have your digital reading, so that way you can actually get an actual calibrated reading on the room. But we went backwards And we went from being $60 to $160 to go backwards?
But now wait a second. Did we go backwards or did we actually progress?
How could we progress where we went from getting an actual reading to just having flashy lights?
Because how many people are no longer buying into that? How many people are starting to focus on themselves and
the REM
the
pods are
environment
selling
and the
like
energy?
crazy. You can get when K2 first came out, there was only about, until Ghostbusters Hunters and all of them started using it, there's only about $25. Then they started using them on TV, and it became $60. Then they came out with the Melmeter, which has now got digital reading and stuff too. You can actually get a better reading. Also is more calibrated to get a more accurate reading. They go for about $120. Then they go back to having flashy lights and a loud beeping noise with no calibration, no reading, no nothing to it besides, oh, look, the lights went from blue to green. There's got to be a stronger energy. Prove that. We took a step back as far as our equipment. Did we?
As far as the equipment, yes, but I believe with a lot of what I've seen going on, and I could be way off, I'm in a certain carved out demographic, so to speak, of the community. But I see more and more people trying to understand less of the equipment and more of themselves. Which to me, if you have, for every 100 people that get into this, that start to investigate it, for every 100 people that get into it, if even 20% of that begins to focus more on themselves and their personal experiences of things and understanding the energy and the things of that nature, then to me that's a huge win, and that's progression.
It's a win either way. If we get more people doing the metaphysical, we get more people that get involved on the scientific side. As long as both sides are still understanding of one another. If they don't, it's not a win. We're staying stagnant with the same thing that we're already doing.
Well, unfortunately, it's my belief that we're on a merry-go-round of sorts on that.
Oh, this got me in big trouble, too. I know some people that said they've been in the field for 20-plus, 30-plus years, and they're still doing the same thing now that they were doing then. That shows for a fact that things aren't changing. The style of the equipment, the shape of the equipment, but it's still reading the same thing. We're not progressing. That's what I'm saying. And if people
they're not progressing.
No, but
to me,
that's just
they're not progressing.
They're not progressing, but they're revered in the community, and people go to them advice and learn the same thing that they're doing. The field itself and that mannerism is not progressing whatsoever. If we get to more people like what you were discussing and I was discussing, we're trying to understand both sides and to get a true understanding of it, so we can because on most other things, everybody's like, "What's this theoretical?" It hasn't been proven to the point of these things to be theoretical. They're actually still in a hypothesis. They're not even proved to the point of being a theory. But we pass it off as that.
Right. Well, but see, my point is that years ago, okay, let's even say the 80s, for instance, okay, they were still, at least here in the United States, we were still so stuck on, we were into paranormal, but we were so stuck on it being such a taboo that it wasn't well documented. It wasn't well talked about. It wasn't anything, really. It was a great ghost story for most at that point in time. So yes, you did have people that were involved then, and they may still be doing the things they're doing now. And to me, I don't agree with that. Like you, I don't agree with that at all. However, now we have grown to a point to where it's being discussed. It's being, which, yes, it's a merry-go-round and it's a vicious cycle of it's the same over and over and over as far as the equipment and everything else. However, what really gets me and where I say that we're progressing is the fact of we as a whole, a lot of people have decided to start putting down the equipment. A lot of people have started to show disgust. Are we the majority? No, we're not. Because the majority, you're saying the majority is buying these flashing lights. But the fact that any of us are soldiering through and trying to bring awareness to the other side of that is huge. Considering 1980s, 30, 40 years ago, this was taboo to even talk about.
Sure was. I mean, we are making progress in some manners, but not like I think we could or should have over the last X amount of years. Especially since, like you said, when it became forefront to the public and the public acceptable to discuss and to talk about, we've not taken advantage of that. We really haven't.
No. Instead we put TV shows on that, and you guys know I've been on quite a few of the TV shows, and even still, I'll be one of the first ones to tell you that there's a lot of them out there that I can't even stomach to have on my television for more than 2 minutes. But that's because that's what sells.
There's actually one I like right now, and I haven't liked a paranormal investigating show in a long time. There's one out on mainstream TV. There's several on Roku and streaming systems and also on YouTube channels. There's some very good ones out there, but for mainstream, there's finally one that I like.
Are you going to fill us in?
Ghost Brothers.
Okay. I'll tell you, I've only seen maybe 2 episodes of there, so I can't. I reserve judgment.
What I like about them is they're being themselves. A lot of people are saying that they're being and they get mad if you say it to them too, that they're the comedy relief of the paranormal, they're a comedy team of the They're serious about what they do, but they also be themselves. They don't try to put on airs and come off as being professionals. They tell you flat out that they're not. And if they scare one another or somebody gets scared, they say it, they do it, and they keep it in there. I respect that. I respect that they're being themselves and holding true to who they are and who they are as friends.
And that's huge. You know, I completely agree with that. Like I said, as an overall, I reserve judgment because I've only seen like 1 or 2 episodes at most. It's
the standard equipment that they use and some standard and theories and standard techniques. But, you know, that's the acceptable practice within the field. That's why it's called the standard. But I like how they carry themselves and how they maintain their character of who they are. That earns respect out of me. They don't try to come off as being all-knowing or anything like that. They'll tell you they don't know, and that's cool.
Well, that's top of that, too, you know, like, for instance, one of the episodes I did see, the one guy decided to dress up like somebody that was believed to have been killed in the location. And he did a whole little skit with it.
Yes, I saw that one.
And I thought it was fantastic.
Yep, reenactments are wonderful.
If you're serious all the time, you know, you get what you get. What you put out there is what you're getting back. If you go into a location mad and angry, what are you expecting to get back? If it is active, if it is a haunted location and spirits are willing to interact with you, and you're going in there, you know, cocky or mad or any of it, what are you looking to get back on that? You're going to get it right back at you.
Absolutely. Well, I do hate to do this. We've actually come to the end of the show, and we've really not covered anything besides the metaphysical. We still got your author. We still got so much more to talk about. So if you wouldn't mind, can we reschedule for a part 2?
For sure. I'd love to come back.
Absolutely. Awesome.
We always enjoy talking with you.
And also, would you tell everybody where they can get a hold of you to get a reading or to book you or to find your books or whatever?
Definitely. The easiest is always facebook.com/medium Glenn White, and that's Glenn with 2 N's. That's always the easiest to get a hold of me. There's a message me button. There's a shop now button. Amazon.com worldwide offers all 3 of my books that are out so far, and they will be carrying the 4th when it comes out in October. So make sure to check out those 2 places because that's where everything lands.
Glenn, I want to thank you again for being with us. And folks, be prepared. We will be doing a part 2 of this because Glenn and I got in some discussions that we were not prepared for tonight, or we didn't think we'd get into that level tonight. Imagine that. We're prepared for anything. We just didn't think. Well, I didn't think it'd go that direction. So thank you all for listening. Glenn, thanks for being with us. Teresa, thanks for being over there and just being you.
Oh, thank you, dear.
Y'all have a good night and see you next week.
Good night.
You're listening to Parasearch UK Radio. News, views and reviews from the world of the paranormal from across the UK and beyond. Find us on Facebook, Twitter, and the World Wide Web. Parasearch UK Radio.